Okay, let's talk about the new string data type. So this far we've talked about primitives, which are the numerics, the the shorts, the char. The char is basically the smallest, and we got then short and int and long and so on and so forth. This next one is now the string data type. Now the thing you notice about string is you notice it's got a capital S, and the capital S is basically saying, hey, I'm not a primitive data type, I'm a relative data type. What that says is the actual data is stored somewhere in memory, and what this is, we're creating a variable called greeting, and that variable is pointing to that data within memory. So in this case, I've created a string variable, and a string is basically text, and it's called greeting, is name of a variable, and I'm saying good morning. And notice it's got a comma and a space behind it. Then string name Herman. So I'm basically putting into my print line out, greeting plus name, concatenate those two together. So it's going to say good morning, comma, space, Herman. So run this, and good morning, Herman. It's just what we expected. Now, string has um, different methods, different parameters that we can use, and some of the different parameters are, in this case, is length. If I were to place my pointer behind the name dot, now name is Herman again, I do a control space, here's all the different parameters that we can use for string. We're going to use a lot of these. We're not going to get into all of them, but we're going to use a lot of these. In this case, I want to know how many characters are in the name variable. So in this case, Herman has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters. So I want to say name has string size, so string size is an int, and I'm making it equal to name.length. So it's telling me the number of characters. And again, if I were to run this, Herman has 6 characters. So string name, Herman, int, int, string size is equal to name.length. If I were to change that to Mark, and I save it, run it, Mark has 4 characters. Okay, so dot length is a parameter of the string data type that allows us to get the length of a string. On page 215, or I'm sorry, page 74, table 215 talks about some other things, some other parameters of the string data type. We have char at, length, 2 lowercase and 2 uppercase. So I can actually convert a string to an uppercase. So I can actually say, in this case, name equals name dot 2 uppercase, put my semicolon in there, and now when I basically print that out, do a save, this should Mark should always come out as all uppercase. So if I run this, there it is. Mark is all uppercase. So I can convert things to upper and lower case. So again, we're going to get into just a few of these things. Next part of the chapter, we're going to talk about scope. In this case, if I tried to execute string size equals name.length before I actually declared the string size, I'm getting an error because it goes, I don't know what string size is. So scope says make sure we put things in their proper order. So in this case, I make sure that I put string size down below where I basically declared string size. It's always good to keep and declare all your variables kind of towards the beginning of the class. That way we're not declaring variables down below and everything's declared up front, so it's easy to find what those variable types are. Next section talks about comments, and comments can be done many different ways. I think I've showed you one or two. If you just put 2 double forward slashes, this is a comment. Okay, and if I want to do another comma on the next line, I have to put in the 2 more slashes to do that as well. But what if I wanted to do multiple line comment? Well, if I start a comment with a slash asterisk, I can basically say this is a comment, and then basically keep typing. This is a comment, and you'll notice that as soon as I hit the enter key, Java, or I should say Eclipse, automatically put in an ending slash asterisk slash. That's the end of a comment. So I can actually type this. I can actually type slash asterisk. This is a comment, and then put a slash asterisk at the end, and now I've basically, so anything between a slash asterisk and an asterisk slash is considered comment. It can be multiple lines. So you'll see comments like this a lot of times. You'll see slash and then a bunch of asterisks and then some verbiage in there. So kind of a nice way to make a box. Okay, I think there's got to be a space here. There we go. Yeah, it's got to have a space after the asterisk. So now you'll see a lot. You'll see comments in a block section like that as well. Something I can't stress enough: make sure you document. This is called internal documentations. Your comments. You're letting folks know what you're doing. So one of the examples we have is here we have double pay rate, and behind it we have slash holds the hourly pay rate. So this is kind of nice. We now have a comment for each variable that we declare, so now it makes it a little easier for someone to come in and figure out what is basically going on at that point. Another thing you'll notice is as we type things in, it automatically indents. See how we have the brace here. Now, the braces are very important. The braces show the beginning of a class and then the end of a class. Sorry, this is actually a method. So here's a method. This is the beginning of the method. This is the end of the method. Here's the beginning of our class, and this is the end of the class. So this method is inside of that class. So you'll notice how things get indented in as automatically as we use them, and that they basically do that. I should say Eclipse and Java wants us to do that, make it more readable. It's easier to read, figure out what's going on. Okay, one last thing I want to talk about is the how do we get things from, I want to be able to type something in. So if we look at the payroll, this is the payroll class, and here's the void main method. This is the method, and inside of there we have a string name, which is text. We have an int hours, double pay rate, double gross pay. Now, I don't want to have to hard code those things. I want to get them from the user. Well, in this case, we're going to use the keyboard variable, which is a scanner in. What the heck is that? Well, if we look up here, in order to use the scanner, I have to import it. It just doesn't automatically come with Eclipse at this point. What we have to do is we have to include it with an import statement. Now here's what's kind of nice about this. If I were to get rid of this line, you notice scanner now has a red line. If I point to it, it says, you want me to go ahead and import the scanner for you. So it will do that for me. So if I double click on that, sure enough, it automatically imports the scanner class. So that's kind of nice. And what it does is, it basically, we now have this keyboard which says I'm ready to accept something from what you type in. So in this case, I say, what is your name? Notice it's a print, not a print line. That means it's going to stay on the same line. Name is equal to keyboard.nextLine. What that's saying is, accept what you type in. When you get done, make sure you go to the next line. So if I run this, so here's a system out. What's your name? Keyboard next line. System out. How many hours did you work last week? Hours equals keyboard.nextInt. So that's telling us to grab the next integer, making sure we grab an integer data type. And then this one here says pay rate equals keyboard.nextDouble. So make sure we grab the next double. It's going to basically read it in as a double. And then once I have those two variables, hours and pay rate, I can go ahead and calculate gross pay. And at the end I say hello, the name that we typed in up here, and we say your gross pay is such and such. So if I were to run this, run as a Java application, got to save it first. It comes up and says, what is your name? And I just go ahead and type right here. I'm going to type in Mark, hit the enter key. How many hours did you work this week? I worked 38. Hit the enter key. And what's my hourly rate? 12.5. Hit the enter key. If I take 38 times 12.5, I will get $475. It says, hello Mark, your gross pay is, and it tells me the gross pay. So the import to get the keyboard, or the scanner, allows us to get information from what we type in down here. So now we can truly have some good variables in that particular case. Okay, so a dialog box. Another way to get data from the user is to use a dialog box. So and we'll look at the names dialog. And in this case, we import the javax.swing JOption pane. Now, don't have to worry about all of that stuff. Realize if you want to use a dialog, you go ahead and say JOption pane.show input dialog, and it will automatically import that in. And so in this case, I say first name is equal to the JOption show input dialog. What is your first name? Okay, and whatever we type in that dialog box gets put into that variable. So if I were to run this, here's what happens here. So instead of it showing up down here, watch what happens. Look at this nice little dialog box. What is your first name? I type in Mark. What's my middle name? David. What is your last name? Webb. Hello, Mark David Webb. So as you can see there, pretty cool. Now instead of having us work down here, we actually use something that we would use in a real life situation. And so at the very end, I say JOption pane show hello first, middle, and last name, and then I say system.exit 0. That's something new. We're actually telling it we want to end this program, we are done, and it basically kills it out of memory and basically is no longer usable. Let's see if I can squeeze this in before we run out of time. We have the payroll dialog, and I think we're going to run out of time. So let me do this. Let me go ahead and end it here, and then we